Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. First and foremost, happy Easter, everybody. Uh, Sad to say, I kind of forgot it was Easter. I come from a big family. I'm one of seven kids, and Easter used to be a big, big deal. And once my parents passed away, we all of the kids kind of. I used to joke at this as the emperor has passed, and now we have all the we've split into separate kingdoms, kind of like Alexander the Great died, and the generals formed their own little whatever kingdoms, empires, dynasties, whatever you want to call it. And everybody's busy with kids, and then since it's my wife and I without kids, I kind of forget. So I just woke up to some nice happy Easter messages, so I thought I'd tell everybody happy Easter. I completely forgot. I would have done some like maybe Usagi Yojimbo, like with a rabbit or something like that. But I forgot. So thank you, everybody. I see there's people watching. Let me know if it sounds good, looks good. And I know What Geeks Do Network has his own channel. I think it's time to start getting a new camera and a new mic. I started out doing my iPhone, and if you look at my early videos, it's terrible. So don't look at my early videos, but look at my early videos. Now I'm using like a little cheap, I don't even know what it's called, but I think it's time to up my game, especially with my own comic releasing. And speaking of my own comic releasing, it's Heroic Tales #1. I'm sure everybody in the chat already knows about it. The campaign has been approved. We go live on 4/26, 9 p.m. I will be going live, and I'm going into full promotion mode. I'm not very comfortable with self-promoting. I'm very comfortable with helping other people promote. But once the attention is on me, I feel a little weird. I feel like a I don't know. I was going to say a bad word, but I don't want to say that. Oh, What Geeks Do Network says, awesome. You didn't know? You didn't know? Yeah. Click on this and check out this wonderful campaign page. And if I may ask, this is my Substack. I'm starting to realize it's a little confusing. Like it loads up to a certain page to me, and then when I logged out and load up, it's a little confusing. I would not have used Substack had I known that. But I got my email list. I don't spam. I'm going to start using it more and more now as we get closer and closer to the campaign. And then, hello, Haldir, and hello, What Geeks Do Network. So I'm not expecting a great turnout, being that it's Easter. But if you're in the chat, just shout out, say hello, happy Easter to everybody. What else did I wanted to do some accounting, some housekeeping before we started. I can't remember what else I wanted to say. Oh yeah. Oh, if any of you have your own channel and you have a camera and a microphone set up that you are happy with, either private message me or put it in the regular chat, because it's hard to see in the scrolling chat, the live chat. Put it in the regular comment section. All right, so there we go. That's all out of the way. Lost somebody. So here, because you see, I'm like far away. I'm really far away, and I still can't get the whole image. I can't zoom and refocus and move the camera around. I really did just buy the cheapest. I think it was like $11, and that's what I've been using. So anyway, let's get to Love and Rockets. If you're not familiar with this comic, you are at least familiar with this cover. If you're, into comics, I know I got a few people that are new to comics watching. Okay, but this is one of the most important indie comics I could think of. It is. I think it is a big deal. Um, it, so let's start at the beginning. This is created by the Hernandez brothers. Los Brothers Hernandez. Forgive my Spanish accent. I lived in Albuquerque for 7 years, and all of a sudden I think I could do Spanish. But I first became, this is going to sound awfully pretentious, but I first became aware of the Hernandez brothers in a comic called Mr. X. Jamie and Gilbert did the art for Mr. X, and I cannot remember who wrote it for the life of me. And my friend Phil, for whatever reason, he was, he was kind of into comics. His brother Sean and I are in the same age. Phil was older than me, or is older than me. And he just said, "You got to get this Mr. X." I was like, okay. And that's all it took back then. You know, he was my friend's older brother. You want to impress him, so you do what you're told. So I got the Mr. X, and I fell in love with it. It was by Vortex Comics, and I think the Hernandez brothers did the first three issues, and then they left because they weren't getting paid. You know, can you blame them? You know, that's one of my nightmares is people finish work when I just happen not to have money. I gotta pay you guys. You know, it's one of the things I know in construction. You got to pay your guys. You pay your employees. That's a sacred duty. You pay them. So they left, and they self-published a black and white comic. So even the cover is in black and white of Love and Rockets. They submitted it to Fantagraphics. Fantagraphics liked it and colored it and repackaged it in magazine format. And boom, the rest is history. Pity Ma. Hell, finally made it to a live show. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. And if anybody's seen Abrax and Lacey Lee, War Duke, you know, these are guys that I miss. Bucky 749. You know, the original guys. Crom, he's my first member. If anybody sees them, just tell them Happy Easter's. Hello. You know, you kind of start to you know, worry about people. Jeff, you know, Jeff Hatcher, all these guys. All right, so let's focus. So this was on the shelf, and I didn't know it was Jamie and Gilbert Hernandez, and also Mario Hernandez. I just saw this cool cover, and I picked up number one, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Oh my God, did I hate it? So that was like September 1982. I'm trying to remember how old I was. If I was born in 1968, what was I in 1982? Anybody with the quick math? I forget. But I absolutely hated it. I was not ready for this. And to be honest, issue number one is my least favorite issue of Love and Rockets, and you'll see when we open it. So I have a sister-in-law, Danielle, and for some reason, I don't know what started it. She got a slight interest in comics, and I gave her Bone by Jeff Smith, and she absolutely loved it. We talked about it. It was really fun because you know, we don't have any common interests, and you want to get along with your brother's wife. And it was just like this, you know, and it was still coming out at the time. You know, I think it was like the last 10 issues or so. So, you know, she caught up, and then we would talk about it. And then every month as the comic would come out, I'd you know, drop off the comic, and she would get excited. Just the newest, what do you think is going to happen? So right after that, she was like, what else you got? What else you got? And I gave her Love and Rockets, but I should have started with Heartbreak Soup. Instead, me being an anal retentive, I gave her this, and she hated it, and she absolutely hated it, and that was the end of it. That was the end of her borrowing comics and reading. She lost my trust. Oh, Marcus here. Marcus, Mr. X was created by Dean Mott. I couldn't think of the name. And Paul Rivochet. Yeah. Oh, so Paul actually was a creator of it, because I knew he did the art later on. I didn't realize he was a creator. Cool. So here we go. Let's open up Love and Rockets number one. And you know, like I said, I'm limited by this cheap camera. I pulled out as far as I could go. There you go. There's the full cover, and you know, and then I could barely reach. So I got to get a new camera. It'll be next paycheck, because I try to keep extra money to pay the guys that I'm working with. So here we got an editorial, you know, talking about the beginning of the script. And here we got the staff, the creators. Gilbert Hernandez, Jamie Hernandez, creative co-conspirator Mario Hernandez. You know, Mario is the lesser known brother. Here's everybody else. And you know, so creator. So this is all done by the brothers. You know, if one brother is credited with it, he's doing everything. So this is fall 1982. Okay. And this is Beto. Can you see that? Beto 8081. So Bert. So Bert is short for Gilberto Hernandez 8081. So this was created around 1980. Well, not around, in 1980, 1981. And what does BEM stand for? Bug-eyed monster. So Love and Rockets was first, and the legend has it that the band Love and Rockets liked the comic and stole the name, which became a story in the comic about a you know Love and Rockets stealing the name of the band. So here we have early. Oh, Torchbearer Studios, great comic. Yes, yes, yes. This is a great series, and this is my least favorite issue in this great series. We'll talk about other like the series in general when we're done with this. So we have this bug-eyed monster just splashing through the water, and just look. It's funny because some of you people are seeing this for the first time. I'm looking at this going, how primitive, how primitive. You could see the evolution of the art, especially the lines. Maybe I'll show another. Well, I definitely will be showing a later issue of Love and Rockets. We just have Lenore, character that you don't really see anymore. This is a really hard. Wow, look at this. It looks like it's colors. This is a really hard comic to talk about because it's I don't know the correct term. Surreal, avant-garde, wacky. What is the correct whimsy? Whimsy, I always think of it like childlike. This is definitely not childlike. And throughout this, again, I'll talk about the series later on. So flash rumors, a bug-eyed monster is coming. Everybody's freaking out. Bem, they call it Bem. There's monsters. The guy's gonna deal with the monster. He's getting some magic science weapons. I love the like the old-fashioned retro future. I love retro future. I love retro future, which is definitely, which is different from steampunk. Retro future is like just I don't know, retro future. So look at these costumes. Everybody's gonna get off and fly away, going to the islands, the Yo-Yo Island in particular. These people in these Flash Gordon suits, and again, why am? And then here it is, the first appearance of Luba. Luba's hot and sexy, and this is one of the biggest things, no pun intended, about Love and Rock. Especially with Gilbert, is the women have huge boobs. It's the elephant. It's the elephants in the room. You can't talk, and myself included, I dismissed Love and Rockets as a girly mag, and this is tame for Love and Rockets, believe me. And Luba is this islander, and I don't know who, but this is not the same Luba. This is the first appearance of a big-chested woman named Luba in the Love and Rockets comics. Obviously, it's number one. So anybody who shows up, it's the first appearance. And she becomes one of the central characters and a wonderful character. And like all of her mother is Maria, which is a fabulous story. And then Luba has two sisters, Francine and Petra. And all of the Gilbert stories are centered around Luba. She is like the the point in which all the axis rotates. All the stories seem to come from her, and she's just this fascinating, wonderful character. Just one of the most unique characters in all of comics, if you ask me. And she gets dismissed because she has gigantic boobs. You know what I mean? So, but one of the things about Luba is she starts out as this like sexy vixen looking, and over the course, I mean, this is 82, and we're in 2024. She's an old, heavy woman now with gray hair. That's one thing that it's fascinating to see these characters grow old and age and get married and get divorced and have children, and then the children grow up and have kids. I'm not joking. I bought an encyclopedia of all the characters, and I lost track of characters at 104 between Jamie, Gilbert, and once in a while Mario. But the thing is, like, it's like the Silmarillion. You got to keep track. Now, I'm giving the Hernandez brothers credit that they keep track of all the characters and they're crossing all the lines and dotting all the T's. And I used to do that. Like, it was like a conspiracy theorist. I would keep track of all these characters, like in a notebook, and this guy's. So I just gave up. I gave up, not from lack of interest. It's just that, life gets in the way. and I couldn't keep up. And I'm not sure if, like, Tolkien, everything made sense. Everything was interconnected. Tolkien is his obsessive compulsive dream. And I'd like to think that Gilbert is doing that. Now, Jamie does the same thing, but not to the extent that Gilbert does. And I guess I'll talk about this now, but the stereotype is that Jamie is the artist and Gilbert is the writer, when nothing could be farther than the truth, because Jamie and Gilbert are the writers and Jamie and Gilbert are the artists. There's differences between and I feel bad for leaving out Mario, but Mario only makes a few appearances. Mario is older and I think more established in a different career than the younger Jamie and Gilbert. And I don't think they're twins. I don't know. So here we have, Castle Radium, this Steve Ditko freaky looking thing. And what's going on? It's a monster story. It's a full-on monster story. Bem is coming, and they're setting up like for sacrifice. This alien queen shows up. This story is way out there. And Bem is now using laser beams from his eyes to blow up everything. This guy is, what are we going to do? This corporation, it's grand conspiracies. He's jumping off of buildings, running around, intrigue. And then boom, end of, I'm sorry, you can't see that. End of part one. So it's, I don't know if they originally intended this to be, its own comic or whatever, but now boom, we go to Mechanic X starring Maggie, Racy, and Hope, and by Izzy Rubin. So, you know what? That's funny. I never noticed this before. I've reread the series a few times, and I always skip over this issue. This issue, I don't particularly like this issue, and now it's starting to make sense because I'm paying attention. So, Mechanic X by Izzy Rubens. That explains so much. A light bulb just went off in my head. So this is a comic strip about Maggie and Hopi, written by Izzy Rubens, and later on we meet the real Maggie and Hopi. Okay, I'm so glad I did this. Oh my God, I feel like an idiot. Lately, I think my brand is going to be that I embarrass myself on live streams. And that's what I'm doing. The tradition holds up, everybody. I embarrass myself. I just found out something. Okay, so what did I just find out? So this is Maggie and Hopi. We got Maggie and we got Hopi. Okay, Hopi has black hair. She must have died and they are the central characters in Jamie's stories, which is either Hopper's 13 or more commonly Locas, and it's the story of these two Chicano characters, Mexican Americans living in their place is it's called Hoppers is the name of the town, and it's like a magical realism version of Oxnard, California. And it's just so much fun because these characters aren't that much older than me. So like they were into punk rock, they started a band, they were traveling, and I really liked them. And they were on again, off again. Now Maggie, as you can see, is cute as a button. Like this is like the worst drawing of her ever. It's primitive. It's their first issue. They get so much better. Oh my God, do they get better? They draw some of the cutest girls ever. There's Josh Howard, there's Jamie Hernandez. I'm trying to think of people who are known for, and I'm putting Tonic Mall in there. He draws some of the cutest women, and she is just irresistible. Everybody falls in love with her, but she's such a sweetheart. So that's she's the full package, if you ask me. She's cute, she's interesting, she's into punk rock, she's fun, she's charming, she has like a positive attitude, and she's irresistible. She's irresistible. And then, guys, she was a fan favorite character. It was by far everybody loved Maggie. Maggie could have spun off and did her own solo series. People buying her merchandise, selling off the shelf, and then they skip ahead time. That's one thing that Hernandez brothers do, is they jump around in time, so it can be confusing. And she's heavy. He makes her chubby, and people were pissed. I was disappointed, but I wasn't pissed. You know what I mean? It's funny because the comic is pretty real, but right now we're talking about bug-eyed monsters and we're talking about space mechanics over here. But this is Izzy Rubens. Who is Izzy Rubens? It's their older friend who is a writer. Oh man, I missed that so many times. Again, embarrassing myself on camera. So Old Dirty Fatty, at one time I thought there was a fourth brother. If there's a fourth brother, that's news to me. I know that there's Gilbert, and I know that there's Jamie, and then Mario actually does stuff in this issue too. So you'll see Mario, and then Mario only has like a handful of stories in 40 years of comic books. He came back recently, but if there's a fourth brother, if anybody knows that, let me know. So they're getting ready for work, Maggie and look. Oh, you can sorry, you can't see it because limitations of this primitive camera. She's got this floating vehicle. Okay, so they're getting ready, they're fighting, they're cutesy, and I love this character, Rand Reese. He's a pro mechanic space. He's a pro what do they call him? A pro solar mechanic. So this is his space, and he goes around the solar system fixing things. He's a space mechanic, and Maggie gets taken on as his apprentice. And Hopi is like, I'll wait for you. I don't like. She doesn't like that Maggie is going off into space. Oh, I even got him wrong. Maggie is the blonde, and Hopi is this. You see, I'm embarrassing myself on camera, but Maggie is famously blonde and short haired, and Hopi always has short hair. And then, do you need my new haircut? I need. That's funny. So look at this guy. He's dreamy. He's absolutely dreamy, and he's fixing things. And she goes off to work. I just love the short shorts. Just such great designs in these characters. And what does she do? One of the endearing things about Maggie is she's clumsy. She's clumsy. She's awkward. She's irresistible. She's just like, she's just this dream. And she's always been a little. Look at that. I guess the kids today would call her thick, and she's in love with, or smitten by what is the word, like puppy love, with Rand Reese. And look at him, wouldn't you? He's dreamy, and she falls off right in front of him. You know what I mean? And he's a good guy too. I like that. At this point, it's all good guys. So here's the old wizened guy. There's always an old timer. When you work in the trades, there's always an old timer who knows everything, and they got all the comebacks loaded in their brain. You know what I mean? And I just love this. There must be like tradesmen in their family. The dialogue is good. So now, they're practicing, he's fighting, because things get dangerous. And now they're testing out all the equipment. And what do? She's talking about all the dangers that they'll face in space and all the damage for machine stuff. I love this. Something tells me that because my dad was a telephone man, and there was a gentleman down the block, Mr. Stecker, who was a lineman, and going up on the poles. So I love seeing this. I don't know again if he just did some research or it was in the family, but I just love this. How cool is that? How cool is that drawing? And you could see it's even through the course of this story, the art is getting better and better. Now they're going off. So he was testing her skills, they're not going to go off. And now we got bombs from an alien invasion. Again, it's all over the place. It's just like, it's all over the place. So they are. And again, I was always so confused by this, but now it makes so much sense. And I'll explain that. They're in like a Star Trek, like land speeder. They got all these robots that they're repairing. And now they're finding out that one of the guys is wearing a mask. He's, the mechanic is wearing, he pulls off, and it's a robbery. They're space aliens. I mean, it's just insane. It's just insane. But Rand ain't gonna take any of that. He's fighting the robots. When you're a pro solar mechanic, you got to be ready for alien invasion. He's beating them up. He's doing this. The old timers, backing him up. And then look at this creepy. He looks like the Space Phantom from the Avengers. He threatens them. He's like, you can't kill a woman. You come and get me, you worm. And he's like, okay, And then he activates this. It magnetized, pulls his gun. Rand beats him up. The old timer's like, you get him. He's like Anthony Burgess in Rocky. She's like, oh, my dreamy, I'm saved by Rand. It's just it's so great. And now she's going back home. How's your first day at work? She's like, are you going to take this job? You got to quit. And then here is Penny Century. This is the first appearance of Penny Century. But I think at this point she goes by her real name, which is Beatrice Gomez. And I'm a man, flesh and blood. Beatrice Gomez, Penny Century, is one of my favorite characters. She's just va 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 voom. She's one of the cutest, most beautiful characters in the world. And her story is she wants to be a superhero. So she uses her beauty and her assets to like move on up in rich circles to find like richer old men who will spend money for scientists to get her superpowers. And eventually she gets superpowers. She goes flying around the world. So here, look at her. Can you blame her? Here's one of the rich guys that she's bamboozling. And now we go back to Bem. This is Gilberto. This is not Luba. If Luba was undressed, you would notice. So, this is the other character. They're going around. Again, it's one of those type of characters. So I love this. He rubs the wall and he smells it. A woman, 5 foot, 209 pounds, blonde, so super senses, blood stain in the shape of Texas, a mound of like residue dripping from the ceiling makes a fire. It's all just bizarre. His senses activate and he's going around and fighting. What is going on? It's Gilbert going berserkowitz. It's funny now that I saw that was written by Izzy. I enjoy this issue so much more. It makes so much sense, and I love this refugee from the old science fiction movies. He's fighting lot of action, a lot of superheroics that you don't really see in the later issues. He's fighting, inside this building. So this is all happening inside this building. So it's a high-tech building. And again, I'm going by fast. He's fighting the robot. He's activating his abilities. He's, battle of wills, staring at each other, as I love how the stars are flying off to show how much pain he's in, how much pain the robot's in. Look at that face. And then, he goes Super Saiyan over here. He goes Super Saiyan before there were Super Saiyans. A lot of, he wakes up, he's powering down, looking at the destruction. Look at this face inside the helmet. No wonder he wears a helmet. And then he saves the guy because he's not a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. Round 2, the suit's booby trapped and it explodes. And I'm going fast because why not? It's a big issue. And then just look at this destruction inside this, And again, the plot's all over the place. It's insane. He goes back. Ismail, the horror's only friend, died in Mexico. He was 75. So he's finding out that the old guy just was on a suicide mission because his friends died and he survivor's guilt or whatever, and then whatever. I don't want to read it because there's a lot of dirty words. Lenore, maybe should help you forget it. Let's go get pizza. And now Hoppers 13 by Jamie 81. So now this is the beginning of what I consider Love and Rockets. This Bem and that Mechanic X, that's all like just all over the place science fiction. Now we get to Hoppers 13, which is Jamie's signature series, and it's more grounded in realism. It mostly stars Maggie and Hopi, the two characters that we saw. Izzy is their friend. I forget I think they all live together at first, and then she's their landlord. And Izzy is an older woman who writes stories. And I didn't realize that, but she is writing Mechanic X. Oh my God, that makes so much sense. And here we have Rosalaba. So this is more realistic. This is a more realistic story. It's all in Spanish up here. The main conceit of the story is that Gilbert writes about a fictional town in Mexico called Palomar, which is where Luba lives, and Luba's children in the villages of Palomar. And if I remember correctly, Palomar translates to pigeon coop. And they all try to leave, and they come to America, and they live like in Texas or Southern California. And that she meets up with her sisters Fritzy and Petra. Now, I'm going off on a tangent here, but I figure that's the way Love and Rockets is. It's a meandering story. So again, let's just turn the page. You know, his talking about, see his Penny Century, daydreaming about being a superhero. Did I skip a page? Because that's abrupt even for. Oh, this is one page of Hoppers. One page of Hoppers. Okay, and then yeah, I thought that was abrupt, even for Love and Rockets. So this is Penny Century, You're Fired by Jamie. And Penny is a white. She's a white character. Beatrice Gomez, and she just wants to be a superhero. So her real name is Beatrice. Her superhero identity that she already picked and created is Penny Century. And here she is at work daydreaming, and that she's getting fired. So she meets this Mr. Costigan, who is like the Walmart family of this world. So he owns Costigan shopping places. She's wooing him, and the thing about him is he like sold his soul to the devil for wealth and success, and he grows these horns. And he just says, yeah, it's a birth defect, and he uses it as I was different. I was an outcast, so I forced myself to become rich. He explains it like that, and she's seducing him, and she's not really that interested. Everybody's interested in Beatrice. She's a world-class beauty. He's grabbing some hiney over here. Can you blame him? He may have devil horns, but he's still a man, flesh and blood. And she's using him. She's like, I want to become a superhero. And he's like, I can't do that. He's like, then I'll leave you. He's like, but there are superheroes. So there's superheroes in this world. Okay. That's another thing. The Love and Rockets world it's a superhero world, but they focus mostly on the regular people, and there's no mention of them. And they do that. Again, I'm meandering because the comic meanders. So back to Gilbert. So Luba is in Palomar. Eventually her children all move to the United States. So she moves to the United States. And it's funny because when she's in Palomar, everything's written in English because, it's everybody speaking Spanish. So in order for the American audience to understand it, it's there'll be like a little asterisk translated in Spanish. But when they go to the United States, it's pretty clever. Everybody's speaking English, but Luba is not translated, and it's Spanish because she never learned English. So so you have to like figure out what she's going. You either have to look it up. Sometimes they'll have like a little in the margins trend, but I just love that. They make it so that it's difficult for the reader to understand because it's difficult for everybody else to understand Luba because she's too old to learn English. They're brilliant storytellers. So that's and then and I do think they're in the same world because every once in a while you'll see different characters in the backgrounds. And at one point, Jamie drew some Gilbert story. I guess it was like a April Fool's joke, and Jamie drew, and Gilbert drew a Jamie story, and they interact. In the barest, in the barest way they interact. So I think it's all the same world. So now we're back to Bem, and now on this island we got. This is like Luba all dressed up like this. Monsters, space, and they're trying to trap the monsters. They got all these characters, and what is going on? It's like we got to seduce the monsters. So Luba is dressed up what they think a bug-eyed monster would be attracted to. So like, no, I want to do. It's just look at these drawings. For some reason, this reminds me of Steve Ditko, and it's got to be a tribute to Ditko. First, Jamie and Gilbert are longtime comic book fans. So now, as everybody's fighting and they're losing the plot and they're infighting, Bem shows up, and they're like, "Oh, we are not prepared. We are not prepared. Look at this. Look at this." And I'm enjoying this because you don't really get to see a lot of like crazy alien monsters in the comic, so now they're trying to dance. She's doing this dance. She's doing this dance to make the monster happy. And then Luba takes out a hammer. She's going to hit the monster. And that becomes like her thing. She, excuse me. She carries a hammer around. That's like, I hate this word. That's like her iconic image is Luba with the dress on holding a claw hammer. The creature is watching what's going on, infighting. Look how big it is compared to them. The helicopters. Look at this page. Look at all of this writing and storytelling, which is not common in Love and Rockets. Love and Rockets really does have like the least amount of dialogue possible. So now, Lenore is dead. She kills herself. They can't deal with the horrors of these monsters. And what happens? It blows up. She somehow deflects it, and the whole island blows up. And the only survivor is Luba. Oh, you can't see it. It's just such a bizarre, bizarre story. And now I'm starting to wonder if this is like somebody else writing writing a story. So now we got Isabel Rubens, and I always love this house, this image, this small little house on the cliff, and here she is as a young woman. And it's funny because they they have so many characters that you don't see them for so long, and then when they revisit them, that they change because they age. So it must have been like you don't see her for like 15 years or something like that, and she's got long gray hair, and you forget it's the same character. But that's the way it is in real life. People get older. So she's writing and she's throwing out scripts, and it makes so much sense now that she is the person writing Mechanic X. So now she's in her imagination. She's exploring. Where does she get these ideas from? Look at this. Just no dialogue. We don't need no stinking dialogue. So, she's going down to explore. It's such good symbolism. She's exploring her mind. She's going, to reach for idea. Is this really happening? Is there really a cave with all of this? Drinking potion from this idol's mouth, getting experimented on. You don't know. That's just it. You don't know with Jamie and Gilbert what is true or what is not true. Is she going out now? Is she going out on a night of the town? Getting, we don't know. And now it comes back to she's at the desk writing, and she's taking all of these ideas, and she just rejects it and throws it away. Now, that is, to me, a quintessential story of Love and Rockets. A lot of ambiguity. You could argue this, and we have argued this. I got to refocus. I have argued, like friendly arguments with friends. No, that's not what happened. This is what happened. Yeah, blah blah blah. And and this, I can understand it's not for everybody, but it's for me. And you know what? I haven't revisited this comic in over 20 years, and I gotta say I am enjoying it so much more now than I've ever did before, because hindsight is 2020. I've read the rest of the series, and now I could go back and understand. Just imagine 1982. Geez, 14 years old, and I'm reading this. What the F? Oh, boobies. There's boobies in it. That's the only thing. But I didn't buy any of the Love and Rockets issues until it went 50 issues, and then they stopped. Jamie and Gilbert wanted to do other things, and what they did was they made comic book size. Keep in mind, this is magazine size, so here's a comic book for comparison. Okay, here's a Captain America comic. It's Love and Rockets is that much bigger. So this is Savage Sword of Conan size. As I drop my comic on the floor, and they made comics about specific characters. They made Penny Century, and the Penny Century character drew my eye, and I started buying Penny Century, and then I went back and bought 2 to 50, because I just fell in love with that Jamie Hernandez. At that point, the art was so clean, and they were at the top of their game. So here we got this like Mobius type creature. You could definitely see definitely you could see all the influences. And who knows what's going on? Who knows? Wait a minute. Let me see this. Is this Mario? Oh, this is Gilbert. Okay, so this is Gilbert. The style is so similar at first that it's difficult to actually see who's the writer. So this is just some standalone story with bug-eyed monsters and creatures. 2 girls in the desert writing. Look at these small panels. This is such a different style. This is older. Put into the book. The style changes over time. But look at all this insanity. Just look at all this. It's a lot of panels, a lot of small panels. They're rescued by this woman, this ranger in a car kind of reminds me of Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, which, by the way, Xenozoic Tales, I'll be doing number one. I'll do next week. So now this, we're back to the characters from Bem. This is Lenore, and you don't see Lenore too much after this. All this craziness and this fight at the aftermath of the atomic explosions. Some people are dancing at the end of the world. Some people, she can't deal with like the survivor's guilt. And I forget this character's name. He's running around like a maniac, beating up everybody, being a hero, trying to fix everything. Just look at this like post-apocalyptic world. He's driving in there's actual wheels on this car. Lake Landover. These people survive living in this carcass of the defeated Bem. And here's Lenore again. Very Susie and the Banshees, all this, debauchery that's happening because why bother world is destructed. Let's drink beer, let's conga lines, she's not having it. Like, we could fix this, is basically what she's saying. We don't have to give in to this hopeless hedonism. This character has been showing up throughout all of the series. He's kind of like a lecherous but like harmless goofball that shows up. And if I remember correctly, he just got murdered in an issue, which was, kind of graphic. But I don't know if it's the same character or if it's just they use the same image, because this story is like not referenced anymore after like 2 issues. It's just so, I love this T-Rex. Big fan of T-Rex. Just insanity going on. Here comes Luba in this costume, and Luba doesn't look like this for the rest of the series. And now we go back to Locus. Okay, so these are the same characters. This is Hopi and Maggie. These are the same characters that you saw in Mechanic X, but this is their real life, not being redrawn and reimagined by Izzy. Oh my God, I'm so glad that I saw that. I'm so stupid that I didn't notice that. So here's their like first real appearance, if you want to. And this is Locus, means crazy girls. The name of the story is really Hoppers 13. Hoppers is the name of their fictional town where they live. The young punk rockers. Izzy Ortiz has a lot of those kind of occult books. Why not borrow from her? So they're talking about Izzy, and Izzy has a brother named Speedy. So there's Speedy Ortiz. Izzy, and I think Izzy gets married, or her maiden name is Rubens. I think her maiden name is Ortiz, and I think she marries somebody because her name becomes Rubens. Maybe that's her pen name. You see, it's confusing. And she has a brother named Speedy, and Speedy is this young cool guy, and he gets involved in drugs. And this is the beginning of this story called The Death of Speedy Ortiz, and he gets killed in a gang fight. And look how creepy Izzy is in these stories. She changes drastically to the point where you don't recognize her a lot. And they're just driving to the town, regular teenage, they're high schoolers at this point, just being gross, drinking and farting and just gallivanting, and the only adult is Izzy, who kind of like just gets story ideas off of this, just being a punk rockers. And I love this. They go to see the band. Look at that. Just, and again, this was a couple of years later. I'm like, why did I miss this? They got Fear. It's all the bands that I was into at the time. And now we come back to this insanity with Lenore and Bem. She's exploring this cave. And why am I not explaining the story? Because it's unexplainable. Does it make sense is it stream of consciousness? It changes, and it just leaves room. It's like a Rorschach test. I make out of it what I want. People get destroyed. Luba gets burnt up by this shaman. These giants show up to claim the corpse of the giant creature, and then we go back to like semi-normality over here as these corpse-like giants come back and clean up the monster and clean up the evidence, and then keep in mind this is all happening in a Central American country, and because of all of this, the explosion stuff, that there's going to be a revolution now that's going on. How bizarre. How bizarre. How bizarre. So that's the first issue of Love and Rockets, and I've been kind of ignoring the chat. So let's go back and look at the chat. So let me see if there's anything that I'm just going up to the top because I don't want to miss. Okay, Marcus told us back. At one time I thought there was a fourth brother. I'm not too sure about that. Grey Wolf, how you doing, Grey Wolf? Good to see you. I believe I'm wrong, but I used to think so. I've been known to get things wrong, so I'm not going to correct anybody. Happy Easter to you too. Happy Easter to everybody. Drawing unique body types, weird. Okay, Odin, you brought up a good point, and I was glad you brought it up. The Hernandez. It's funny because a lot of the progressives now are championing the Love and Rockets as progressive and blah blah blah. But this is 1982. This is 1982. They had chubby people, they had fat people, they had gay people, they even have a transgender person. They even have a what do they call them? An intersex, person. I guess low class people would say hermaphrodite. They would do all of that, and especially like identity politics, because there's fights between Hispanic kids and the Asian gangs and all that. So they are dealing with all the stuff that I can't really stand. But the Hernandez brothers are geniuses, and the characters are real characters, and the stories are real characters, and they're not lectures. They're explorations. There's nothing wrong with a gay character. There's nothing wrong with an intersex character. Is it used as to browbeat you, or is it used to tell a wonderful story? So yes, the Love and Rockets was woke before there was woke. If it was, and I do think that there is some argument. If Love and Rockets was all of a sudden to come out right now, people would dismiss it as woke because we've been conditioned to react. You stick your hand in a fire so many times. When you see fire, you react, even though you're not burnt. But so yes, so good observation there, Odin. And Odin has the coolest mustache in all of comic books. I did that back in the day for Strike Duty with AT&T. Oh, climbing poles? Is that what you're talking about? Could you clarify, Pity Ma? Oh, yes, we're talking about climbing poles. Yes, I climb poles like that, but I forgot. Yeah, Marcus works for the telephone company. I forgot about that. Yes, he climbed poles like that. Love and Rockets was very popular when I was in college. Oh my God, yes. I mean, I started going to college years later, and that's when I saw the Penny Century comic, and that's what resparked my interest in all of this. And I went back. Yeah, I was in college. I was living in Albuquerque. This was the height of my pretentiousness back to these guys. Guys were trying to emulate Los Brothers. Yeah, this is not the best example of their artwork. I will show a later issue. I will come back to Love and Rockets. I want to show the comic that just made me fall in love with the series. And I am a Hernandez Brothers fanboy. I've been actively trying to get the Hernandez Brothers to come on my channel. Oh my God, I have to read the series. Never heard of it before. Yes, I would start with the collection called Heartbreak Soup. Read the collection called Heartbreak Soup. Fantagraphic Books is really good with collecting them and keeping them in print. So I would start with Heartbreak Soup. Just a great black and white, even if you don't quite get it. Yeah, I have to admit, there's sometimes I just don't get it. The straightforward stories are the straightforward stories, like the death of Speedy Ortiz, Heartbreak Soup. But then sometimes there's just these little stream of consciousness, insane stories that are just your guess is as good as mine. So there's less dialogue in the later books. It's not this page. I just opened up right to the. It's not like this. It's not like this. It's and it's not as many dense panels like this. I would say like this page is more representative of like the amount of writing per page on later issues, Crenshaw. And thank you for coming. So that's Love and Rockets. It's a seminal work. It's an important work. This cover has been uh, uh, spoofed, mocked, redone even by the Hernandez brothers themselves. What a great cover. So, Love and Rockets, according to them, originally was like a supposed to be like a soap opera of science fiction and romance. And then later on, it became more grounded in reality. Yeah, the Palomar series was the trials and tribulations of poor people living in a poor Mexican village. And it introduced me to the concept of magical realism. So even though it was grounded in realistic stuff, they had that like bizarre things that would happen. And I was just fascinated by the whole concept of magical realism that I went out and due to Love and Rockets, I got the book 100 Years of Solitude by uh, what's his name? Now I'm gonna embarrass myself. Marcus Garcia. And that became my favorite book. And I remember reading that book on my way to Albuquerque when I moved. So that was 93. So I got back into Love and Rockets before I even I was back into Love and Rockets earlier than I recall it if I was reading it on the way to Albuquerque. And I was just fascinated. That book is one of my top 5 books of all time, 100 Years of Solitude. And I just became fascinated with magical realism due to that. What's the other one? Love for Chocolate, Love and Chocolate or something. Just such wonderful books. I really, really started to love in the Time of Cholera. Odin, I was having a discussion of when terminology changed from underground comics to indie comics. To me, it seemed to be around the time of Love and Rockets. Underground comics were a little different. Good observation. Underground comics were kind of like they were sold in head shops, and like it was marketed towards people who weren't into comics, like the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers, and I would even say American Splendor and comics like that. It was pot smoking and counterculture. Just like Grateful Dead type fans, and you'd go to head shops. I don't know. Does anybody understand the term head shops? Head shops were where you went to get your bong supplies and rolling papers, and then unbeknownst to everybody, you could buy some marijuana, the devil's lettuce, and smoke that. And those were underground comics. They were never supposed to be mainstream. Indie comics, these were sold in comic book stores. Even my comic book store, even it back when this came out in 82, 85, those times, you didn't really see the underground comics. You didn't see Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. That was a whole different market. So that's, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that to me is the difference between an underground comic and an indie comic. The indie comics were supposed to be sold in regular comic book outlets, not the newsstand. Neither, underground and indie weren't sold in the newsstand, but these were direct market to comic book stores, whereas the underground, they had a completely different market. Hey, Spambot, thanks for the show. You're welcome. Happy Easter. Happy Easter. Good morning. Happy Easter, Jolly Green. It's, I'm just loving. I'm seeing so many of the same people coming back and enjoying. So any questions and anything else you want me to bring up about Love and Rockets? Oh, okay. So this lasted 50 issues, and I think that they just canceled it on their own, and they wanted to make their own character. So there was a Luba comic, there was a Love and Rockets, there was a Whoa Nelly about wrestling, and this comic introduced me to the whole luchador and female wrestling circuit that was big in Albuquerque and New Mexico and Southern Arizona. So it lasted 50 issues. They did a bunch of miniseries. I don't know if whatever, but they came back with a second volume of Love and Rockets that lasted 20 issues. And then they did like New Tales of Old Palomar, which were big, like graphic novel series. And then they came with a third series of Love and Rockets. And I think that lasted 8 issues. And they were 100-page, smaller comic book sized graphic novels. They were, and that lasted 8 issues. And they would come out like once or twice a year, if at all. And then that lasted 8 issues. And then they went back to Love and Rockets and I think they're up to 16 now. So there's 4 volumes of Love and Rockets, and geez, I don't know how many spin-offs. But you could get the floppies because I'm a crazy person, or you could get the collected editions, and they're numbered. The first 24 are numbered, and then after that, they just stop numbering them. If you're interested in this, I would me. I love Gilbert's Palomar stories. I just love them. I don't know what it is. I light up. And I like and I do love the Hopper searching Maggie, and I really like it lately. It's funny how originally gravitated towards Gilbert, and I love Gilbert stories, but I love Jamie's art. So there is some truth to that stereotype that I talked about earlier. But then Gilbert, it's like I became fascinated with Fritzy. Fritzy, it was originally about Luba, and then Fritzy kind of stole the comic, and now and then Fritzy's Luba's sister Petra had a daughter who was into comics, and I can't remember her name. She became my favorite character, and then I went back to Fritzy, and Fritzy now is like she was trying to be a movie star. She made B movie skin movies, and now it's like Fritzy's estranged daughter is a porn star. And the last couple of issues, all the Gilbert stories, it's just like porn. It's like hardcore porn, and it just it's wearing me thin. And inversely, the Maggie story is surprisingly wholesome. Maggie was this little punk rock girl, Hopi, Maggie, I think was straight, but got involved with Hopi because I think she mistook female loyalty and friendship for romance, and got involved in Hopi, and that didn't last too long. Then she got involved in a string of men. She's always the sad sack loser. You can't help but root for Maggie. And she just has she becomes a school teacher, and she's getting older and dumpier, and then she goes back to one of her original boyfriends, and they get married, and it's just so wholesome. And now she's just like helping some troubled girls, and I started out hardcore on Gilbert's side, but the more it's getting into, I don't want to sound like a prude, but it's just like, I don't know, and the other thing is, it's everybody in Gilbert, they move to America and they become super successful millionaires, and everybody's a millionaire, and everybody, TV producers and shows. And to me, I kind of lost touch with that. Whereas everybody in Hoppers grows up to be like a middle class, struggling, normal person. And I hate when I say I can identify with that. I can identify, but I don't know. As I get older, I'm really, really getting attracted to the punk rock girls grow up, become school teachers, get married, and have regular problems, and don't want to go to high school reunions. I don't know. And it's the same thing with Strangers in Paradise, the other indie comic I showed. The whole international secret agent story, which is the bread and butter of that series. I could care less. I like the two girls getting in an apartment and fighting over wallpaper and stuff. Like, if I want secret agent spy stuff, I get secret agent spy stuff. And then the Hopper is 13, Maggie and Hopi, they grow up, everything's normal. Izzy's a real old lady now, and Speedy Ortiz. When Speedy Ortiz died, it just changed the whole comic. It was like it became more grounded in reality, less fantasy. And I think that's like, I wonder if something happened in their lives. Did they have a friend who actually passed on? And it changed it for the better. It became such a better, more mature comic. Mature storytelling, not mature porn, which that came later. And I just really, really like mundane. And then all of a sudden, boom, there'll be a robot space alien, and it'll remind you that there are superheroes in this world. It's just an unexplainable comic. It has everything that they love into it, and yes, there's a lot of inspirations from Love and Rockets that will be in my comic Heroic Tales. Torchbearer Studios says Love and Rockets was always next to Strangers in Paradise at my comic shop. I've always associated them together. Indie comics with mainstream levels. Absolutely. Strangers in Paradise, Love and Rockets. I to me, they are like in the same genre, of like unexplainable. Whereas Love and Rockets Strangers in Paradise is more realistic. But I I do think fans of one are fans of the other. Yes, this is an indie comic. What are the bros working on now? They're working on this. They still got issues of Love and Rockets. I think it's up to 16 on the fourth volume. So they're still working on. Yeah, Gilbert has delved into porn comics before. Yes, yes. He had a comic called Birdland, which was about a strip club called Birdland, where this, so it was, strippers, and then the strippers started working and making porn, which was fine. It was a good story. It was, and again, I'm not a prude, but like Love and like Savage Dragon, it turned into a full on porn comic for a while, and I think even Eric Larson realized he got carried away, and it didn't enhance the story. So like there's a comic called Black Kiss, which is full on porn, but it's a vampire mystery. It's a good story. You know, it, as it's a good story as much as Howard Chaykin could tell a good story, because he's one of the worst as far as storytelling, and is a fact of like each panel interconnects and tells a story. Howard Chaykin is just almost random images, and you need the words to be the glue to put the story together. That didn't bother me. I love that. Bill Willingham had a comic called Coventry, which was a full on porn comic, and it was a good comic. There was a Phil Folio did a comic series. Why can't I think? Xenophile, and it was full on porn humorous stories, and they were great. So I don't want you to think I'm a prude here, but I don't mind the nudity. Yeah, I don't mind like the LGBTQ stuff, because it's interesting and well done, well drawn. They're good characters, but lately the last like 5 issues of Love and Rockets, I'm just like, I read it out of loyalty. I read it because I want to know what's going on with the characters. But okay, knock it off. Knock off. Okay, so you add in porn into enough. But the Maggie stories are just so wonderful. Larson is a perv. Even before he did the porn stuff, he did stuff that was very questionable, and I'll leave it at that. In Savage Dragon, I don't know. I think Larson has everybody's neurodivergent these days, but I do think he has some sort of autism, and I think he gets hyper focused on the wrong things, and I think he's at the point where you can't tell him that he's wrong. I think he has to realize that he's wrong. So there we go. Larson is mentally ill. Yeah, I was just saying it, So there we go. I have to meet somebody at 11:15. So I also want to go up and see if the Easter Bunny came. When I came down here, my wife was still sleeping. We stayed up way late last night watching TV, and talking. It was a lot of fun. I think we stayed up to like 3. And then, so I snuck down here to do my Sunday comics. I didn't want to wake her up. So happy Easter, everybody. I hope you enjoyed Love and Rockets. Next week, I'm going to do Xenozoic Tales #1 by Mark Schultz, who is a comic book writer and artist who should have more recognition than the guy has. One of the best comic book artists. I don't know. I think he's still alive. The problem is he's so slow, but his work is so worth it. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the title Xenozoic Tales, it was rebranded as Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. Okay, so that's next week. So thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for showing up. This is my favorite thing that I do on this channel. Uh, you know, Sunday comics, talking a deep dive into comics, talking with the chat, answering questions, Marcus correcting me when I'm wrong. I absolutely love it. So thank you. Enjoying my coffee, talking about comic books. And it's about comics, ladies and gentlemen. It's about comics. It's not about drama. It's not about me. It's not about Marcus. It's not about Haldir. It's about all of us loving comics. This is what it's about. This is the focus. So thanks a lot, everybody. Thank you, Haldir, for backing me up over here with you can click on this. I'm pointing to it like you could see. You could click on this, and you will see the campaign page. It's been approved. It will go live the 26th for Heroic Tales. It's $10 for the comic. I'm sorry about the shipping, but that's the nature of the world. It's So I got to charge you for shipping. I apologize for that, but I did not want, so it's $20 to buy my comic. I'm really embarrassed by that, but it's $10 comics goes to me, $10 goes to shipping, and it's worth it. I tried to make the price as cheap as possible because I'm not out to gouge anybody. I'm just trying to recoup my losses and fund the next issue. So what you're really doing by buying my comic is funding issue number 2. That's going to be my model going forward. I'm taking it on the arm for the first issue. Something I want to do. I don't mind doing it. So if even if everything explodes in my face, we're going to have one issue. It's already paid for. It's already paid for. So issue 1 is happening. What I would like to do is each campaign is for the next, and keep that going. So thanks a lot, everybody. I'm excited about my comic. I'm excited that you guys are here. I'm just excited about comics. Thanks a lot. And I'm talking quiet because I don't want to wake up my wife. Have a good Easter. You too, Torchbearer. Thank you for coming. Oh, Schultz is still alive. I saw him at Heroes Con. How long ago? Just last year? I would love to commission him to do a cover for my comic. Oh my God. Okay. Pity Ma, I can't wait. Looking forward to it in the variant covers. Yes. I already spoiled it, but for Fund My Comic, the Pat Broderick cover is exclusive to only Fund My Comic. Then I'm going to do Kickstarter, and the Michael T. Gilbert cover will be exclusive only to the Kickstarter. And as I was explaining, I'm going to go to Indiegogo last because with the shadow banning and everything like that, they'll be last. Batting cleanup. I'm going to have another exclusive cover. I'm in the works with 6 different artists, and whoever commits first. And all of them are artists that I really like. Actually, I'm down to 2 because 2 of them I just can't afford. I just can't afford. I got to be realistic. So I'm down to 4 artists who will do the variant cover for the last. So I'm not a variant cover guy, but I understand the way the business works. Got to recoup my losses. So there'll be 1 cover by Renzo. That is the normal A cover, and then there'll be 3 variants. So there's 4 covers altogether. And I'm not trying to gouge you guys. I'm trying to drum up excitement. Here I am. I'm the worst salesman in the world. I'm picking up $20 ain't nothing with all the entertainment you supplies. Thank you. Oh, wow. That is a nice thing to say. And I didn't want to say it, but Dan Lawson said was answered a criticism about these $25 comic books. First off, Ethan's comic Cyberfrog is worth $25 because you're not just getting a comic. You're also getting a toy. You're also getting stickers, and you're also getting a side comic. If you break everything down that you got in that box when you just backed a regular run-of-the-mill, just give me the comic Cyberfrog, you're paying like $5 an item. It is totally worth it. So I don't think Ethan Van Sciver needed to be defended. But he said you're paying a ticket for a year's worth of entertainment. And I do see some truth to that. You know what I mean? But that's just arrogant of me to say. So I'm glad you said it. Not that I'm asking you to buy my comic out of obligation. Buy it because it's a phenomenal comic. It's a phenomenal comic. It's so good. I'm so proud of it. So you saw Mark Schultz last year. Good. I'm trying to get the time off and the money up so that I could go to Heroes Con. I'll see Marcus. I'll see a whole bunch of people. My buddies go every year, so I'll go with them. And if the money's right, I want to bring Renzo with me. How cool would that? Me and Renzo going on a road trip, old Jack Kerouac style. We'll drive down or something like that. That'll be fun. Hey, Heroenberg was the first indie comic I bought. I was inspired by I knew you like Penny Century. In issue 7 where she becomes Atomica. First I've heard of cosplay. It's a lot like what yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I knew it before you popped in. For those of you who don't know, Heroenberg was one of the first people to ever come on my channel. And if you know me, I'm loyal to everybody who's been on my channel. I'm loyal to all the people that have helped me out. Even when people come on my channel who don't like other people on my channel, I'm not picking fights. for a couple of reasons. I don't want to pick fights. Second reason, it's about comics. It's not about personalities. And third, how awful would that if it's I became known as the guy that talks crap about you after you've been on my channel. So that's it. So Harold Berg has been a great guy. He's one of the first people to ever come on my channel. He's from Pittsburgh, and he makes comics. Well, he makes programming, television shows about superpowered women, and he hires actresses and they act it out. It's a lot of fun. And then he makes a supplemental comic that he sent me the first issue of the comic, and it's one of my early reviews. So yes, I knew you liked Penny Century. Penny Century did cosplay back in like around 1983, and she became a Katamaka, and later on she gets powers. John, we'll be there at HeroCon in June along with 3 other comp. Okay, great. You know, another this how wonderful would that to actually see all these people that I've been interacting with for years. That would be so much fun. And Marcus says, Lopresti did 108 pages plus stretch goals. Yes, yes, yes. I'm not saying anything bad about anybody. We all know what I'm talking about when I'm saying a $35 comic book that wasn't worth it. We'll leave it at that. But you know, so I'm not a legendary person. I'm not a long timer. And I was joking with the guys making my comic, my team, that I'm the weak link. I'm the weak link. I'm the new guy. I'm the rookie. You know, everybody else is at top of their game, putting that stellar work. So you know, I'm the one I'm nervous for. John is based. I try to be based. But thanks a lot, guys. I got to get going. I have to meet with somebody. It's actually about my script. You know, I hired a professional editor to go over everything because you know, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on my comic. I'm getting the feeling, so I do not want to disappoint everybody. I want to make sure you know it is the best that it could possibly be, and that takes work. It takes professionals, and I've never been embarrassed to ask for help. So I think my script is great, but you know what? I'm getting a professional to you know, make sure I spelled all the words right, using the grammar correctly, things like that. So thanks a lot, everybody. I will I go to when is it? What is the date? And because that place is near my sister, I could always go and stay at my sister's house. So let me know where it is. Uh, we'll be at Guard State too. Oh, cool. Yeah, Harold Berg, he does a lot of the conventions, but I really do got to get going. All right. Happy Easter, everybody, and I'll see you. Bye bye.